So for this Sandbox episode, we're excited to talk to somebody who is a longtime friend of the show. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome illustrator, designer, instructor, and creator of Happy Faces on Everything, Hayden Aube.
All right.
Thanks.
That's a mildly exhaustive list.
Yeah, that was quite a bit, wasn't it?
Gosh, you do too much stuff. Maybe next time we talk to you, let's have cut half of that stuff out of the equation.
I will do less in the future.
That's good.
Yeah.
So Hayden, thanks for coming back on the show. We're super excited to talk to you. As always, you're a rad dude. But for those who are maybe new to the show and have just tuned in the last couple of months, or maybe even their very first time, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about who you are?
Yeah, my name is Hayden, and I'm an illustrator, designer, and the majority of what I do is classes on Skillshare, and then I also do some smaller tutorials outside of that. Yeah, I think that's like the important bits.
Man, that's really condensed version. I barely had a chance
swinging
to swallow
that pendulum both ways.
Okay, so but for people who are maybe new to you, one thing that stands out about you as opposed to maybe some of the other people who are in our Slack channel or our community or some of the people that we've talked to on the show, you are, like you said, you work with Skillshare, but you are very much about sharing and spreading the wealth of what you do and giving like these little tips and tricks as well as these full-on tutorials.
Right.
Tell us a little bit about where that background comes from for you.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that like, I think for like ever since I was little, I was always like, whatever I do, I want to teach it. And I had no exact reason why. It was just kind of this like inclination. And then as I got into design and art, I just found that like a lot of what I've learned, yes, was through school, but also YouTube, like a lot of YouTube tutorials, a lot of online classes. I got introduced to Skillshare because I wanted to learn stuff and I was a student on there and still am for a very long time. So a big part of like my own abilities, I feel like, is due to all of these strangers on the internet that have kind of shared their wisdom with me. It's been really important to me. And so I'm kind of happy to give back in a way.
So you just want to be a stranger for someone else.
That's all I want.
That's great.
All I've ever wanted is to be a stranger to somebody else.
Oh man. So last time we talked, the big thing we focused on Skillshare for a lot of the conversation because that's where, I mean, frankly, that's where you were deriving your income from. That's where your time was going. And since then, you have shifted or you had been looking to make a shift to another venture called Happy Faces on Everything. So maybe tell us, kind of what that is or was supposed to be and what you were pushing for there.
Yeah. So, I mean, initially that was actually just like my newsletter. A couple of people said I should start one to share the little things that I was doing every week. And then eventually I'm like, oh, this can kind of be a home for all of the sort of educational things that I do. And so that's like over time, it kind of transformed that way. And eventually, I was like, oh, maybe I can like have like my own site, kind of like Skillshare, but just for my own stuff where people can go directly to me and download my courses there. And that's probably where like the majority of like the past 3 or 4 months went to, was building that site and making that a thing. And then very recently, I decided to put all the attention back to Skillshare, and now Happy Faces on Everything is where I post creative nibbles, which are like these weekly tutorials that are like from 1 to 10 minutes long, as well as I just kind of have the other like free resources that I make that I put there. So I don't sell classes there anymore.
Right. So let's talk about that then.
Sure.
So the idea is that Happy Face on Everything was going to be a replacement for you for Skillshare to some degree. To
some degree. It was like I was still keeping my classes there, and I was still going to publish classes there. It was just like, hey, let's see if I can do this on my own.
Yeah. So it was going to be supplemental. Like you were going to have both platforms.
And I think like the ultimate goal would have been to transition fully to Happy Faces, like in the future, if it were stable enough.
Okay, so then so what happened?
Yeah,
you're right. Like
So
you
really eloquently worded, Patrick.
Yeah, but you're
great.
right. Because we've been seeing this unfolding in Slack, and of course, like we follow you on a few of the social channels, and so we know you've put a lot of time into this. I remember when we did the announcement for it, and I mean the whole site's beautiful and all that kind of stuff. But I really got the vibe that even if you were, and I assumed you would still just keep what was on Skillshare
Yes.
but I just really got this vibe that it was a bit of one of these things of, hey, I'm having a lot of success here, so can I transition that success to my own platform that's like 100% within my control?
Right.
And I don't know if it's I'm partly a money thing or a design thing, or maybe it's slightly different purpose. I'm not sure exactly, but in any case, it did not turn out how you planned.
Yeah.
And so what happened?
Yeah. So it turns out that running your own like business is a lot of work. I don't know if anybody ever told this to you guys, but I just, I think I had, because with Skillshare, like the audience is already there. And so it really is like I pour all the time into making the classes, and then I put them up there. And then for the most part, things kind of go on their own. Like, yes, I do put out some kind of marketing for it and things like that. But usually it's just like I make the classes, and then that's mostly my involvement. So I think going into this, I was kind of hoping the same thing would happen, which I know it sounds ridiculous now. But I went through months of just building this really nice website and figuring out the best way to sell them and doing like surveys to find a good price point. And I really, put a lot of work into this. And when I put the website up, like a lot of people really, really liked it. I got a lot of great reactions, not a single sale. It went on in that state for a couple months, and
wow,
no sales.
Sheesh.
Like nobody bought a class. And it really sucked. Like,
and you don't have to give exact numbers, but
That's okay. Yeah.
Can you like hint at an idea of how many people were buying classes through Skillshare, just so someone can like get a full picture
Sure.
of like,
on Skillshare, I'm trying to think of, because now it's more like minutes watched for people.
Sure.
okay.
Take it, but I would say probably somewhere around 1,000 or so people take one of my classes each month. That's probably a pretty good estimate.
So from 1,000 to 0, that is a discrepancy.
Yeah, I mean, well, that's like, that was still happening on Skillshare. Like,
Right.
that didn't stop.
Well, the only difference is a 1, really.
That's true. If you take that 1 away, a 0 is a 0 is a 0.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good. That's good
That makes you feel
perspective,
better?
Luke.
Yeah.
So, but you were getting traffic on the site and all that kind of stuff. Obviously, you have an audience. People watch your
Yes.
stuff. And so you said you went several months with just nothing.
Well, so I do, so I also offer like, kind of these creative coaching calls. And so I did sell some of those.
Okay.
But the intention of the site was to sell classes, and that didn't happen.
Man, so talk to us a little bit about that then, about the build up to this. I think we've all experienced this on some level. Some maybe a little bit more. I can't even think of the right word. A little bit more ripe, or a little bit more stingy
Viscerally?
than others,
Or
right?
whatever, yeah.
But what's that process like of spending months on this project with more than a hope, but kind of an expectation that this would be your next thing, only to have to pivot afterwards? What does that do to your psyche? What does that do to your confidence? What does that do to as a creative professional? What does that do to you?
Yeah, like, so, I mean, I think the main thing that it did was it just totally like swept away my security. Like, this was what I was planning on to be, because this year I haven't made very many classes. Like, last year I made a lot. This year,
This is clear to us.
I made one class and spent a lot of time, learning skills to do further classes. But yeah, this was kind of like to make up for the deficit in money that I had this year. And it didn't do that. And so as this was kind of like happening, I was like scrambling. I'm like, oh no, I should probably do some more freelance. I should try and do work like, I'm just trying to figure out like, oh, maybe I should do jobs like this. Maybe I should, try to, I think I like signed up for like a mentoring service or something. I was thinking about creating like products for Creative Market or something like that. I was just looking for all these different ways and kind of getting attracted by everything that's like shiny, because people always share like, oh, I'm doing this and I'm making money in this way.
Sure.
And then I'm like, oh, I need money. I'll do that. And yeah, so it just kind of had me completely scattered, and totally not like focused on what I should be doing.
Sure.
And that kind of led up to like this big, just like feeling of like failure.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it's one of those things that I hear all the time. Like, oh, like people have failures in business and they take it personally, like they're a failure.
Yeah.
And that's entirely what like happened to me. And,
Yeah.
you know, I was like miserable and like up and down. And I know I was like a total drag on the people in my life. Like especially, you know, my girlfriend. Yeah, it was just rough.
So yeah, I think that every freelancer who's listening right now just said, I've been there, because that's the normal thing. You own your own business. There are times where business is slow or things don't work how you think they will, and you think you're the problem, right? Whether or not that's true, ultimately, everything's riding on you. So if it doesn't work, you think it's you. So what did you do to kind of rethink or reframe what to do moving forward? Like, how did you go from feeling like crap to say, okay, here's what this could be and here's how I move forward? Like, so what was that like?
So really it was like just a series of really great conversations, mostly with my girlfriend, but also with some close friends. And what that kind of did was sort of separate the failure of that venture from me as a person. Mm-hmm. It was like, oh, like I messed up, but I am not a mess up. And that was like really, really helpful, because it just kind of like, it just opened up a whole lot of freedom for me. Where I could now like I was able to then look at it and be like, oh, that didn't work out as expected. Yeah. And you know, like objectively look at it and be like, okay, what went wrong here? And I think when I looked from that place, it was like, oh yeah, people can pay this much for a class, or they can jump over to Skillshare, pay less and get all of my classes and more. And I was like, okay, I probably wouldn't buy a class for my website. Right. Like I would go Skillshare route. And that just kind of had me really like, oh, this makes a lot of sense. And one of my good friends was, he was asking me about, you know, last year and why it was so successful for me. And I was telling him about how I was just putting all the time into making classes. And then this year I haven't really been able to make classes because I've been building this site to hold my classes, but in building it stopped me from actually doing that thing, from actually building them. And it was just so backwards. It's that whole like cart before the horse thing.
Right.
Yeah.
So then what do you do? Because there's a bit of like two sides to this. Because there's a bit of you were willing to make the sacrifice to put something that was working well on hold for the hope of doing something even bigger and better, right? But it required you to kind of put that on hold. And then long run, turn around, and maybe it would have been time better spent if you had kept focusing on the thing that was doing well. So how do you have any greater clarity to how to recognize that? Like, is it, was there a list of 3 questions that if you had asked yourself 6 months ago, it would have stopped you from going down that path? Or is it a bit of just a trial and error thing, and this is just
I don't think I could have avoided it. Because for like not ever since, but very soon after starting on Skillshare, I had always wondered what it would be like to have my own thing.
Yeah.
And Oh, sorry. If you can hear my dog barking.
We can't
I
hear it at all.
assumed that was Luke, if I'm being honest.
Is that a
just
cat
Luke
or a dog?
complaining about something else.
Sorry, guys.
It's all
Okay,
good.
Hayden is left now.
It's just us now, so we can say whatever we want.
Yeah, I'm here. Hi. Sorry about that.
No worries. No worries.
Yeah, yeah.
So, what was I talking about?
You were saying some wonderful
Something about the
things.
dog.
You were
How to
talking about
recognize those things.
Is there a way, looking back on it, that you could have anticipated this, or would you just say it's a case of trial and error? And in this case, it just didn't go well, but it could have.
Yeah. So I was always wondering what it would be like to have my own platform for my classes. And I think that question wouldn't have ever really gone away until I tried it. And it's the same thing, like, I used to be a web designer and I really wanted to do illustration, and it was just all this like build up before I finally made the push to do it. And in that case, it worked out really, really well for me. I think in this case, it didn't. But I've I learned a lot, and I'm actually really happy where I am right now. So
Yeah. So before we talk about your happiness, let's sit in the sadness a little bit longer.
Sure. Get back in the sadness.
Because we're gonna transition out of the cloud and into maybe the brighter
rainbow.
future and the brighter days. But yeah, the rainbow. But as you were realizing that this wasn't the immediate success, or maybe even classified as a quote unquote success at all, but at least not as quick of a success as you were hoping for. You've mentioned your girlfriend. You've said a couple of kind of close friends. At any point did you consider sharing your struggle or questions, or put it out there for discussion in something like maybe not necessarily our Slack community, but you are an active part of our Slack community, but in a broader community, to say, hey guys, this is what I'm trying to do. This is what I'm struggling with. Any ideas, any insight? Did you think about putting it out to a broader community?
I think it might have crossed my mind. I think for the biggest part, like I was saying, I had kind of really collapsed this failure with myself, and I didn't really want to be like, hey guys, look at me, I'm a failure. Like,
Yeah.
But I think once getting past that point, like I've always had, like a few key people that I really turn to for certain things. This was one of them. And yeah, I don't think, like, I could have reached out on a bigger scale to your Slack group. There's some other ones that I'm in. But yeah, like I said, I have some people whose opinions like I trust over, anybody else.
Makes sense.
Just as many people as, we've had the privilege of talking to, personally or through the podcast or professionally.
I love that you classify professionally as a different thing than the podcast.
You can decide to include it there or not. I'm leaving it up to the interpretation of the listener.
No, I like that. It's good.
But in talking to people, I would say that I think this is probably it's a very common story. There aren't a lot of people that are willing to talk about it, because it does feel like a personal failure. Like, it does feel like I did something wrong, and it's almost like it can be a point of shame for someone.
Yeah.
Now, that being said, I mean, my own father, he first business, he ended up being very successful, retired young. I mean, he retired early 40s, decided in his success, in his overflow of success, to start another business. Bankrupt, lost everything within 4 years.
Wow.
Like, houses, cars, like, all gone within 4 years. And now, lives in a double wide and works a full-time job. So that's a bit larger scale than what you're talking about. But the point is, you're an entrepreneur the same way he's an entrepreneur. This extends beyond creative. And that's just the reality, is that sometimes you're going to succeed and sometimes you're not going to. Yeah. And so I would encourage that if anybody is feeling like that they're feeling like, hey, I don't know, like this thing's not working and I don't know what to do. Don't feel like you have to hold that tight to your chest. I mean, it's good to talk to people, and especially people that have gone through what you've gone through, because there's certainly plenty of people within the community. So moving now to kind of how is this transition? Because I know that, we talked a bit before the show and saying that you decided to pivot, you decided to make a move. And so what is that move? What have you done now with Happy Faces in order to kind of reframe this in a better way?
I mean, for one, I completely remade the site again. But that was kind of for me, like,
fresh start.
It's and it's, I got to do a lot of fun new illustrations for it. But yeah, the key difference is that I decided I would completely take away the sale of classes there and just make the site about things like Creative Nibbles, those kind of quick free tutorials. I have some like Illustrator actions and some Photoshop brushes that I can put up there for free. And then also I have my own Slack channel. So I have that there too, and just kind of
it's called M of 1 2.
It's called Obey the Thirst, and it's got a Sprite logo.
And so it's just kind of like now I'm just ignoring that.
That's the best thing
It's such a bad idea.
Just ignoring it,
He will
you
not
announce to everybody in the world that you're ignoring it. Thanks.
Yeah,
Everyone
I can really get away with that. And so now it's just more. It's more true to what the purpose of it was. Like, I just wanted to be a nice place for me to just house all the things that I create for other people. Sure. Yes, you can't, like, it does link out to Skillshare to my classes.
Yeah.
But now they're in the place where I think they really should be. And so if people want to take them, they can go and take them there.
Great.
Yeah.
I think that addresses a sense of business savviness. It's not stated from a place where we are business savvy, but even
again, somewhere between personal and professional.
If you're watching this, if you're watching, it's certainly not podcast. If you are watching this on YouTube, if you're one of the people watching this this episode on YouTube, this is a we have gotten to this place by doing something very similar in what you're doing with Skillshare, in that we have the technical prowess amongst the three of us, primarily Patrick, to put out. We could build our own platform and do our videos and do our own platform. But the conversation was, do we want to, be quote unquote be our own boss, in the sense of like do everything from scratch, and so we have the sense of we did this ourselves and everything is in house, or do we want to go where people are? And the people are on YouTube. You know what I mean? And in your instance, maybe the answer is that, you know what? People are on Skillshare. And maybe some of your traffic is people who stumble into you, who get onto Skillshare for something entirely different, and then find out that your content is really, really good.
Yeah.
And there's a sense where you have to disconnect that from this idea of failure. Because maybe what you learned in this process was, you're winning by being where you are. You're winning by being where people are.
Well, there was still that part you said you had to find out, where you would have had to.
Yeah, it's true. Like I learned that where I was a great place.
That's my next now.
That's where I've returned, and I wouldn't have learned it had I not kind of stumbled out there and tried it.
Yeah,
but it's good that you didn't throw out the baby with the bathwater. I mean,
I'm really against throwing out babies.
Yeah, well, I would say it's
a standard rule. I think it's a good rule.
I
honestly,
have 4 rules I live by, and that's number 3.
But every morning I wake up, I say, "Don't throw out any babies."
Yeah, well, because you did keep up the pieces that were working well, right? You didn't just like trash everything, and so I notice. So if I go there, I see where people can still get in touch with you for like coaching and things like that.
Yeah,
the site still is. I imagine a lot of this was created on behalf of that, and you kept a lot of the branding and kept a lot of the aesthetic. So it seems like you're really keeping the pieces that did work, right? Or the pieces people responded well to. You're kind of reverting on some of the things, and my guess is that you're probably cooking up something else right now that you'll continue to iterate on in the next couple months and looking towards the future. So treating everything as a learning experience, take the pieces that work, and then build on that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Go ahead,
Andrew.
Patrick.
You got it.
I'll go ahead. So today being the Thursday that it is, the beautiful release day that it is, you have some new content available, correct?
Yeah. Today I'm launching the biggest class I've ever made. I think next to this, I've done a class that was just shy of an hour. This one is going to be close to 3.
Wow.
Whoa.
And I'm tackling character design with animals.
Nice.
So I'm kind of going through the entire process of learning the anatomy of an animal, and then... Are you laughing at how I said process?
No. I finish this and I'll tell you what I heard and why my brain is stupid and like at least 2 paces too slow.
I like how you say process. But go ahead.
I find never mind.
I'm not laughing at you. I'm laughing at how stupid I am for thinking what I thought. Keep going.
So, yeah, I'm kind of breaking down the anatomy of animals and then how to draw it in a way that you actually understand what you're drawing, not just copying from a picture. And then use that information to create actual, like, character concepts and then final character drawings.
That's good. That's strong.
That's like,
cool.
That's like Disney
I'm really
character study
excited.
style stuff. That's
a
awesome.
lot of the, like, research I've done has been with some Disney animators, actually.
Yeah. That sounds incredible.
Yeah.
Here's what I heard. The first 2 seconds that you were talking, I was trying to figure out how you incorporated animals, like partnering alongside you as you did character development. like, is this so that you and your dog
design
can
with
My
develop
dog
characters?
is in it, though. So it's kind of true.
Okay. So
I tried to do the whole introduction with the dog on my lap, and it didn't work.
That's
Based on that bark, it's a 130-pound dog.
Yeah, that dog sounds
65.
Jeez, oh Pete. Well, okay, so here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna transition into our finals.
Sure.
And I'm gonna ask you something that maybe isn't necessarily about you, but it's about like what you do. So you said that you are still actively participating in Skillshare, and you're
Yes.
still doing classes. You're still taking classes. What are some of those classes that you're taking that maybe give me 2 different answers? One would be that tie directly to the work you do day in and day out. And then 2, stuff that is so far outside of the lines of Illustrator and Designer that it doesn't really make sense, but you like taking it just to learn new stuff.
So I don't think there's any that's so far out of the lines.
Okay.
There was, you guys know Seth Godin?
Yeah. Sure.
So he has a marketing class on there that I took, and it was just fantastic.
Okay.
So that would be one that's kind of outside.
Okay. Still applicable. Like it's still applicable to your
absolutely.
creative business, but not directly tied to a skill inside of it. Okay.
And then other than that, I'm a really big fan of Jake Bartlett's classes. He does motion graphics, and he does these super like short, concise like effects videos. Even like the happy face branding, I have this little like wiggly effect that happens. Yeah. And that was one of the effects that he teaches in his courses. So I really like those ones. And he's like a really nice guy, so that's bonus points.
Cool.
Does he do the one I think I'm thinking of the right guy. He does like the football player, like the football and the soccer like character.
I think you might be thinking of Fraser Davidson's walk cycle class. Yeah.
Yep.
Which is also really, really good.
You're like the Ken Peak of Skillshare.
You like the Twin Peaks of Skillshare.
Okay, so you said something like roughly maybe 1,000 people per month.
Yeah.
Buying your videos and things like that. So, and you've done coaching, things along those lines. What is the a small piece of information maybe that if the average person corrected, it would make a huge difference in the work they're able to put out. So, for instance, clarity, I'm a drummer. Learning how to do a shuffle. Like you learn how to do a shuffle and like your musical horizon just opens up. So what is that for the designer, and what class do you have to help them get through it?
What drumming class do I have?
No, not drumming.
So what's the one piece of information?
The technique or the thing that people most commonly struggle with. Like what's that thing that helps people break through?
Do you guys know of like the 80-20 rule?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't, but go ahead.
Okay, so it's like this rule that can be applied to like anything. And the idea is that 20% of the effort produces 80% of the results. And I think this, like I do this with everything, with design, with illustration, with my personal life. Like I will be like, what are the things that make me happy? And I'll make a list of it. And then there will be a small number of those things that make me more happy than the rest. So I only focus on those. And I think that's like the number one thing that people can apply to their work as well, is just figuring out, you know, if the goal is to bring in jobs, okay, what are those few actions that bring in the most jobs? If it's about, you know, improvement, what are those few actions that bring out the most improvement? Like that's why I was in Montreal earlier this year, is I made a list of all the ways that I could get better. And one of them was go to an art school somewhere. And I was like, that will make me better than the rest of these actions. And so that's what I did.
Cool. So that's awesome.
Does that answer your question?
No,
you've got
that's great.
A tremendous amount of gumption. Like I think that's the word that I would use to describe you.
Yeah, and for those that haven't listened to the first interview, go listen to the first interview. But one of the things you talk about is that, because it's no joke when you say that you make a list and decide this, like you literally have your whole day, every day, like on a calendar, what you're going to be doing. Like you map things out, you plan things.
Yeah, the people can't see my video, right? It's just you guys.
Right, it's just us.
Yeah. Okay, I have like my thing right here. But I have.
Well, just send me a picture of it. But the point is, like, you do really plan. So
yes,
I love that, because that's something people can start doing right now. Whatever the thing is, make a list. Find those few items that accomplish the 80%, and then do those.
Mm-hmm.
That's
great. Really important is like don't do the other ones too. I think that's the other thing is like there's a lot of good actions you could do, but they actually distract you from the best ones. So don't do those good things.
Good. All right, Luke.
Okay, before I do my final, I want to tag on to that, or I want to ask another question in that. How do you do that? Like, how do you not do those other things if they're like responsibilities or things that nobody else can do but you? Like, how do you decide to not do those things to focus on the things you do like?
Well, I mean, if there's like set responsibilities, then I would say you need to do those. Like,
sure,
you gotta, you know,
feed your kids.
Feed your kids. That's exactly what I was saying.
Feed your kids.
You know what? It's not the best thing, so I'm not gonna feed my kids.
Yeah, I find the biggest thing that prevents you from focusing just on those important things is if you're not super clear about them.
Sure. Okay.
And if like, and I'm speaking only personally right now.
Yeah.
When I am spending a lot of, especially at the beginning of the day, if I'm on like all the social media sites and I'm on Slack and all these things right at the beginning of the day, it completely throws me off, because everything that everybody else is doing, and this is what I was talking about earlier, like everything is so much more exciting than what I think I'm doing.
Sure.
And so I start off my day wanting to do something different.
Okay.
But if I sit at the beginning of the day before touching any of those things and I write down just like, what is one thing that I can get done today that I should be doing?
That makes my top list for favorite things I've heard on the podcast the whole time I've been doing it.
Cool.
I agree. That's not easily applicable.
Yeah.
In the sense that I think just about everybody who's watching this or listening to this is trained to be the antithesis of that.
It's hard.
But if somebody can get a handle on that, and I'm talking about myself, I think that would help with a tremendous amount of things other than just productivity, but also self-worth. And really kind of charging after the thing that you want to do as opposed to what everybody else is doing.
Yeah.
There's a lot to be said for that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Gosh.
Okay, so my final question. You're a traveler. We know this. You travel. What's your next trip?
You're a traveler.
I don't have any trips lined up right now.
What?
Maybe Korea.
North or south?
South Korea. But
listen, have you seen the videos of the people like snowboarding and skiing in North Korea?
No.
Dude, look it up, because like they have like a whole like ski resort. It's like up in the mountains, and there's several videos. Like, go to YouTube. That's where you spend your time. Go to YouTube. Skiing in North Korea. There's like
Can't you just link to one below?
Oh yeah, I'll link to one below. But you can find all these little like 15-minute documentaries of people just like snowboard in North Korea. It's really cool and
With
bizarre and weird.
That was
Kim Jong-un.
like, I would definitely go to North Korea. I was looking at tours before, and it's just really expensive. Like, you have to fly in and out from a very specific airport in China.
The travel embargo right now makes it tough.
Yeah, I think when I looked, it was like $5,000 for like 4 days.
I actually have a friend that's been. I would love to go. I would absolutely love to go one day.
Yeah,
just for one day.
No, I would want to
that
spend
seems like a waste of money.
That's a lot of money.
Time.
Anyway.
All right. Well, tell everybody where they can find you, where they can get this new course, drawing creative animals with your animals.
Well, it's anatomy. It's something with anatomy in the name, I'm guessing.
Well, I don't think I even gave the name, so you're
What
forgiven.
is the name?
It's character design. Make a character from any animal. Yep.
Oh, okay. See, now had you said it that way, I don't think I would have had the same level of confusion. But that's okay.
Yeah.
So that course. Tell everybody where they can find that course, where they can find you. They can follow what you're doing, support what you're doing, all that jazz.
Yep. So anything that's like related to my work, my illustration design work, you can go to hkaube.com. That's just sounds like a bunch of letters, but it's my initials and my last name. Yeah. And then Happy Faces on Everything is like everything learning related, and you can get to Skillshare from that website, and you'll see my new course there.
And if you're ever in his neck of the woods, just stop by and hang out with him, because he's the super coolest guy that you'll ever meet. He is the reason, single-handedly, that Blake Stevenson, Jetpacks and Roller Skates, made it to
that is true.
Made it to Creative South this year in first class.
Yeah, better than me.
So you have that to.
But
we
also,
have told that story so many times.
You guys are the reason that I made it to Creative South. So in a way,
I like where we're going with this.
I like how this is a cyclical thing. Luke, what is it that only I could have done for you?
For me?
Yeah.
Oh, there's nothing.
Okay, good. Go check out Hayden's stuff. He's a super rad dude. He's super talented, and you're always putting out great stuff. I can't wait to watch this new course. I'm like, because I subscribe to Skillshare. I've watched every one of your courses so far, so I'm excited to do this one. But for now, we're gonna roll out of this episode. You can find us on MF1 Podcast, where you can find all the show notes and links, the stuff we talked about. If you're watching this on YouTube, it's all right below us in the comment section. We have a contest going on right now. You're going to want to leave a comment either here or on, where was the other one? Instagram to win a Justin Peterson set of prints. So you're going to want to go ahead and jump onto that. I think we want to open that up for maybe one more week. Not very long, right? So do this now.
We want people to get it in time for the holidays.
Yes.
Exactly. This would be a nice Christmas gift for you or a loved one. Just don't send it to me. I have one. You can find us on all the different all the different social medias. Just search MF1 Podcast everywhere and join the Slack community. Hayden's in there. A whole bunch of incredibly talented people are in there. Go to mf1podcast.com/Slack. You can become a patron and support the show there. Go to patreon.com/MF1 Podcast. Throw a couple bucks into that pot, and we send you stuff every month. Some new content, some blooper level content, and you get early access to certain things. It's a good time, and it helps us out tremendously. Another way to help us that doesn't cost you any money in very little time. Patrick, how do they do that?
Leave a rating and review on your favorite podcast listening service. So, for instance, iTunes, 5 stars goes a lot longer way than 4 stars, but really, we just want to hear from you. What you think about us. That's right. It's that's a 20-something%.
And now the Google Play Store.
The Google Play Store as well. Anything that you say, we will read on air during our Tuesday episode. If you're out of the country and leave a review, please alert us, because by default, when we log into one of these services, we only see the United States
regional
reviews.
Yeah.
What
so you say can't and won't be used against you in a court of law.
Yeah, but we'll read it preferably in funny voices. But again, it helps us stay in touch with you on another platform. It helps us to know what you think about the show, so we can continue to improve. But also, it also helps us in the rankings,
it puts
and
us
that's
out
great.
there. It lets more people see what's going on. It's super helpful. So, but for now, we're going to jump out of this episode. I'm Andrew.
I'm Patrick.
I'm Luke.
Oh, I'm Hayden.
Peace out.
Bye.
Yeah. Hold on to your butts.